Hello guys, welcome back to part 2 of the Galaxyshark interview. As you can tell at the time of the first recording, we didn't know it was going to go so long, so there's a bit of a cut between them. I hope you enjoyed the first part. The second part is going to focus a bit more on content creation and how Mr. Galaxyshark got into content creation. So I'm going to shut up and let him get on with it. Hope you enjoy the video. Obviously we are, well, probably when this video comes out, 120 herb and 120 farming will actually be launched, which is kind
of... Yes, it will.
Yeah. We're still a week away, but
Hmm.
thoughts on that? And 120s in general as well.
From the perspective of me, I think it's great. From the perspective of my coin pouch, no. I think herb lore is really cool. I was surprised that Elder Overloads are such low level. And I say this, I know 106 and 107 aren't necessarily low level, but when you consider the fact that we're now going up to 104 million MP, that the best combat boosting potions in the game, the Elder Overload salves, are going to require like a quarter of that. I was surprised. The fact that you have to go to 96, I think it's 96 for an overload, but now you only have to go to 107 for an Elder Overload. I'm not complaining because I am actually currently 106.
So you're right.
So I'm fine. Yeah. Farming as well, I think, is cool. I think the new farm's going to be really good for it as well. To be this really, really good XP, but only for the highest levels. I think obviously the player-owned farm nerf's got a lot of backlash from people saying it was too harsh. But I actually spoke to Mod Camel at Runefest, who was working on 120 farming, ranch out of time, things like that, and he was saying that the severity of the farm nerf was taking into account, obviously, the ranch. None of us knew about that, and they can't just go, "Oh yeah, guys, we're nerfing it so that we can release 120 farming."
And then and they couldn't really nerf it at the same time they released the info of the second one, because then it's like a negative.
So it was definitely overpowered for the levelers. I think the ranch will bring it back to the same XP rates, but you will have to be much higher level to access it. And also, considering you need 8 times the XP, I think that's fine.
Yeah,
we definitely need much higher XP rates for that. 120s in general, I think it's good if there's actually a use for it. So summoning. I'll get back to summoning actually. Slayer, Dungeoneering, Invention, I think it works because there are things to do all the way through, especially Dungeoneering. It was nice to have 60 floors. And then things like Herblore and Farming, they're adding more, like they did with Slayer, they're adding more things to it that hopefully for the case of Herblore and Farming will be a lot more useful than the Slayer mobs were. And I think one of the other problems with 120 was obviously it was quite empty for a while. And it still is to an extent. There's only like 3 or 4 groups of monsters that actually fit into it. That's only like 3 or 4 tasks that you can even do that you unlock above
99 plus, yeah.
And then, but I think the problem with that is they can't just go 120 Slayer. We're also going to release 21 new Slayer creatures, because 21 new Slayer creatures requires a huge piece of content alongside it. And I suppose technically it was alongside Menaphos, but even Menaphos had what, like a dozen different Slayer creatures?
Something like that it would be.
It didn't need any more. There's no way Menaphos could have fit any more creatures in. So I think Slayer, there wasn't any way of avoiding that problem with Slayer.
It had to be a gradual release.
Yeah. Whereas with Farming and Herblore, they are actually coming out with a full 99 to 120. Here's the potions, here's the plants, everything you need for that. So I think that's good. And I think as long as they continue with other 99s, that would be good. The other idea I did see them propose, I think in the annual survey, was doing almost like batches. So they do 105, and then a few months later 110, and then 115, and then 120, which I think I don't really know if it benefits you in any way, because you still know where it's going. You still know you have to get to 120. All it does is give them some extra time to add this content in. So I'm not sure how I feel about that one in particular, but I do like 120s. I do feel like, particularly as someone who's been playing the game for a long time, I do feel like 99 is a bit low at this point. Obviously, it's a very big goal for like a new player coming in, for anyone who reaches 99. But once you get past that, there's 190 million more XP to get for absolutely no reason.
Yeah.
And I do think it would be good to have that sort of thing, but only if it needs it. So I think mining and smithing will never get 120.
There's not really any way they can make them relevant at the higher levels, I guess.
Because only because of how the mining and smithing worked. If they kept all of the levels for unlocks the same, 120 mining and smithing could have worked. So if Elder Rune was like 120 smithing, but I suppose Masterwork 120. But because they've said, okay, the mining and smithing level is going to equal the attack and defense level to use an item, which means if they release 120 mining and smithing, they also have to release 120 attack, strength, and defense. But now ranged and magic are behind, so they have to release 120 magic and ranged. So now the max combat level isn't 138. So now so many different things are going to be like crazy. So tier 99 prayers are no longer going to be any good. Well, because you're going to be thinking about like 120, and there's just going to be this massive. So like, in the same way that I think fletching should be the same as mining, where I don't know if it is already, but if so like the level to make a bow should be the same as the level to wield it.
Okay.
But now we've increased range to 120, so fletching now goes to 120.
It affects so many things. Yeah.
So I think things that are like that, there are some things that just can't feasibly do that unless they make one update that makes half of the skills go to 120, which will never go down well. No. The only people that will like that are the people who are already 120, which makes up such a small portion of the community. And also, it doesn't matter to them. All it is to them is, here's loads more content that you could have done anyway, because you're max level. So, it's a tough one for Jagex. They're in a bit of a tough situation with it.
But just doing them slowly like that. Obviously, new skills. We got Archaeology.
Yeah,
it's only a couple of months away now.
I still need. I don't know how I feel about Archaeology. I'm really excited for it. I'm really excited for all the story content it will bring. I really regret not playing it at Runefest, because I don't really understand how it's a skill.
Yeah.
I think in my head, from how I've had it explained to me, it's an activity that you can do that benefits invention and summoning and combat.
It almost feels a bit more like a mini game at the moment.
That's how I would explain it. Yeah, in that, like, it's an activity you can go and do. Because like if you training Herblore benefits your Herblore skill, you can make more potions. Training farming, you can train more farming. Training Archaeology doesn't inherently benefit Archaeology. Once you've reached all of the excavation sites, that's it. You've basically completed Archaeology. Even invention, like 120 invention, you unlock, well, not I suppose at 120, but along the process you unlock more inventions. But from how I've had it explained to me, I don't get it. I still think it would have been cool to get necromancy. I know it's a bit of a meme, but to get necromancy, and then for Archaeology to be a side activity. So Archaeology, you would gather fossils, that you would then use with your necromancy skill. I feel like that could have been cool, but I don't know.
Have to wait and see on it, really.
As I said, I really regret not playing it at Runefest.
There were so many other things to do.
Yeah, I was planning on after the big, because I didn't want to play it until after the reveals talk, because I knew that anything that the mods there explained to me would be a wasting their time, because it would be explained to me in the keynote anyway. But then after that was when I ended up hanging out with like the RS guy and Cash Stack and people like that, and then we went and did the Virago kill.
Yes, you did.
So I didn't actually then go and do. So I then didn't actually go and play Archaeology. So there you go. It's all Cash's fault.
It's on the record.
Yep. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see how Archaeology turns out. I'm intrigued.
And speaking of Runefest, how many have you been to?
I've been to 2, 2018 and 2019.
And general thoughts, things you like about it?
I think the first one I really liked because it was just a new experience. I think I'm pretty much saying what Wazzy said in his interview. The first one was new experience. Just everyone's so nice and like so nice there. But I think the second one I liked so much more. For a few reasons. I think the atmosphere and the way it was decorated was a lot better. Which is just a product of the theme. So 2018 was kind of the Fremenic themed one, which meant it was kind of dull. There was a mountain that had some snow on it.
There was a boat. Drab.
There was a boat, and that was pretty much it. So if you like boats, there you go. It's the perfect Runefest for you. But then this year being Land Out of Time, I suppose. Land Out of Time, Fossil Island,
Anachronia.
Yeah. I'm trying to find the way that doesn't discriminate between the two games, but I suppose it's pretty Fossil Island. Had that massive volcano that actually erupted, all the different all the trees, all the foliage, all the sounds, that sort of stuff. It was a much more it seemed like a much higher budget thing, much better thought out. And I think the other thing that made it so much better for me was knowing people. When I went to Runefest 2018, I knew a couple of people from a clan I was in 3 years before Runefest. So obviously I could talk to them. But this year, because I'd really sort of got into a lot more into the community, I was watching a lot. I'd never really watched live streams before Runefest 2018, but in this past year, I've obviously with YouTube, with watching live streams, all that sort of stuff, getting to know a lot more people. It was really cool to be at Runefest and to see all these people and actually hang out with them, and especially it felt really good to be a content creator and get my special wristband and go into the little room. It absolutely blew my mind as well that the support from it, people knowing me, because I still see myself as very, very small. So I mean, I still see myself as the content consumer rather than the content creator.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's when I'm stood there in a room with Will Miss It, with Torvesta, with Settled, thinking somehow I've been included in this group. It absolutely baffles me. And then just to have random people come up to me and just be like, "Oh yeah, I love your videos." It's crazy. It just feels so good, and it's something I still haven't really kind of got my head around. The fact that the people that I've been watching for years, so Will Miss It as example, was the first person I subscribed to, I believe, possibly second, on my YouTube account in 2013. And I've been watching him basically non-stop since then. And when someone like him comes up to me and actually knows who I am, it was crazy. It made my year. So it was a very good experience at and also just talking to all the mods there about stuff. It was actually talking to Mod Orion at 2018 Runefest that made me start doing YouTube. So it was quite a nice circle of events that I go to Runefest 2018. I actually missed the Golden Gnome Award to talk to Mod Orion.
Okay.
And then that discussion with Mod Orion made me start doing YouTube, that then eventually got me nominated into the Golden Gnome Awards. So that was quite a nice turn of events. With Runefest, I'd definitely recommend it if you can go. Obviously, it's expensive, especially if you're like not in the UK.
Yeah.
But if you can go, I'd absolutely recommend it. Yeah, and probably also make sure you know some people there. It's cool going not knowing people, but even just knowing some people you can walk past and just like say hi to them, yeah, it did improve it a lot for me.
Yeah, I mean, I knew. Well, I'd only met literally Wazzy before IRL, and I'd spoken to a few of them online, and then obviously afterwards, I feel like I've spoken to so many new people, and everyone's so happy. But obviously, we had a good old chat in spoons.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, just the meeting of new people, and it's like new friends almost. Good.
Yeah.
Very fun. Ooh. I'm sorry, the entire screen just flickered and I don't know why.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully it's not mine. No, don't worry.
No.
Alright, so let's move away from the RuneScape side a little bit and move more to the content creation stuff. So,
right, okay.
So, how did you start making videos? What was obviously you said you spoke to Orion, so this is kind of,
well,
I guess, the story.
I should probably put a... okay. I should probably put a bit of I think a the word around that Mod Orion story. In that conversation with Mod Orion was what created RSGalaxyShark as it is now, the lore channel. Technically speaking, I have been making videos here and there.
Okay.
So I think being in the new YouTubers category is an interesting one, but I don't think anybody in the new YouTubers was actually within the past year. So I can't really, you can't say too much. But I started in 2013 under the name RS Legend, which was completely irrelevant to my RuneScape name. And the original plan was I was going to, with one of my friends, make like a RuneShark style thing where we do the challenges between each other, and it was going to be called RS Legends. But then he decided after like 2 days he didn't want to do it, so I just took the S off. And on that, I made 3 money-making guides. That's it. I did a few more things, actually, yeah. Did a few things. Some of them got quite a few views, although I realise now, looking back, it was because I'd made something very quickly, a guide that wasn't necessarily good, but it was the first one there.
You got out there and before anyone else could possibly...
So I saw, lots of views. That's good. That means keep doing this. But I watched a few of them a while ago. And no, they're awful. So it's a 4:3 aspect ratio. Recording in like 480p with the Bandicam watermark.
Oh, lovely.
With audio from my dad's webcam. It was awful. And yeah, I kind of stopped. There were some various reasons that we don't need to get into. That I stopped that. Mainly, I just sort of got bored of it. And then I actually moved to a different channel, which is under the name Ninja ONC, which was obviously my original Club Penguin name, which is what I had in general gone by on a lot of other like PlayStation and things like that. That was what I went by. For some reason, Galaxyshark was pretty much exclusively RuneScape. And on that, I did things about Ratchet and Clank, Jack and Daxter, all the PS2 sort of things, a lot of theories, top tens, that sort of stuff. Which is, I suppose you can kind of see that in the current content I do, in the more story-based thing, but you'll see it a lot more in upcoming content, if that's anything any of you are interested in. Maybe there's a link below you can click to find some of that.
Of course.
I did that for a couple of years, but I kind of got bored of it in the sense that obviously you don't do it for numbers, you don't do it just to see views, but not seeing views is really demotivating.
Yeah.
Now I knew it would happen because Ratchet and Clank, and more so Jack and Daxter, are really niche games. Like I'm a brand new channel trying to advertise myself to a very and I knew it wouldn't really go anywhere. But there were some bits of content I put so much work into. There was one that it was a 3-part video I did with 2 other people that we literally spent 4.5 months writing and producing. That I think between all 3 parts got 250 views, which kind of hurt a bit.
Yeah, especially when you see the stuff that gets like thousands of times that, and you can tell
especially
it's
when
half
like
an hour's work.
on my own channel, there was one video I'd done that literally took me a few hours to make. That because it had like a few different celebrities in the tags because it was vaguely related to them, it got thousands of views. There was one random video I did that got like 40,000 views because Ratchet and Clank was on the free games on PlayStation, and it was a shame to see that something like that had to happen. And I kind of got demotivated, and then I just stopped uploading for about a year, and that was when it brings us to Runefest. And I think, oh, actually, I had a like hour and a half minute long hour and a half minute, hour and a half long discussion with Mod Orion about various things in the lore, and that was what really I walked away from that realizing how interested I was in talking about it and like reading more about it and things like that. So I went home that next day on the Sunday. It might have been the week after, and made my first video, and then uploaded pretty much weekly for the next like 8 months. Kind of had to slow down a bit because of exams and stuff, but yeah, that brought us to where we are today. But when I first started the lore stuff, I kind of had 2 options that I could either stay on my Ninja ONC a bit more active, and just pick up from that, or go start again. And one of the reasons I made the decision I did to leave the Ninja ONC channel was because a lot of these subscribers admittedly had come from things like giveaways.
Okay.
So like I knew they're not real subscribers.
You didn't really feel like maybe you'd earned them quite the same way.
I hadn't achieved 200 subscribers on that channel. So I just thought I'm just going to leave that. Maybe one day I'll go back to it, but I'm just going to leave that. So I actually ended up going back to my RS Legend one, just renamed it to RSGalaxyShark. Just because it was there already. I may as well.
Yeah.
Deleted all the old videos, started from scratch, and that's where I am today. So yeah.
And like obviously your videos have I'd say quite a distinctive look. You've got lots of nice slow panning shots and stuff like that. Does it take a lot of practice to get that kind of thing down in game? Because I've had to play around with the free cam, as people have seen from the intro, and it's quite intuitive. You kind of obviously have to know where you're planning or ending up, I suppose. But
it's I think once I kind of got the speeds and stuff right, once I worked out like what kind of rotation speed, what kind of movement speed I like, I could just stick with that. One of the biggest issues I have is one of the biggest issues I've found is knowing how certain scenery interacts with the camera. For instance, there are some buildings that if you get too close to them, the roofs disappear. Which for playing the game, that's fine. You want that. But for trying to get a nice cinematic, immersive shot, and all of a sudden Camelot Castle disappears, it's not very helpful for my Camelot lore video. Castle disappears when I get too close.
No.
But there are some things like I find I quite often work backwards. So if I want to get like a curved panning shot, I will actually start at the door, for instance, I want to get to, and hold kind of the opposite of the keys. So I know that where to start, and then I can just, if I go from here, I'll end up where I want to.
You
It's getting
literally
quite
just
dark.
reverse it. It is. Where did the light come from? Who knows?
Oh, there's lights.
Yeah.
But what was the question?
I don't know. Oh,
wow.
filming in game.
Oh, yes. The other one I found that took a bit of getting used to was Skyboxes, filters, things like that. But I found I kind of, after a while of doing it, I got used to it. So I've in my head, so I've sort of built some standards that I do. So when I start a video and it's like talking about early ages, things like that, first age, third age, I like to use quite like the dawn skybox and things like that. So it's quite a nice, kind of welcoming thing. Other than that, I just experiment, see what works, see what I like. I've always made content that I liked, as much as obviously when people request videos, people suggest things, I will take those suggestions on board. But for me, it's always been, do I like this video? Would I watch this video if it was me? So I've always just used the things that I thought looked nice, that I thought were kind of relevant. I do try and have as many different shots as possible, just to make it a bit more, just a little bit more to look at. But there are some bits of content that you just kind of can't. So Kethsey, for example, there are two different places you can go on Kethsey: the Rune Dragon's Isle and the really, really low poly, like 2010 Isle of San, which which just looks awful. Trying to make a 10-minute video with two different wasn't the easiest.
No.
And the other problem with free cams is, I say it's a problem. It's more something I take for granted from the Java client, which is why I think I'm the only person I know of who's sad about the Java client going. But there are certain bits of content, so cutscenes take place in the real, like in the game world.
Yeah.
They're not like a pre-recorded thing, which means somewhere in the game world these locations exist.
Right.
If you've done, have you done A Tale of Two Cats, the Robert the Strong quest? With the Sphinx in soft, you talk to the Sphinx in software. Yeah. So as part of that quest, you see Robert the Strong going to the Dragonkin castle. Now, when I was talking about that, I wanted to get a free cam of that castle because I knew it existed. And you can, in Java, you can use the Orb of Oculus or the free cam from certain locations, and you can just get far enough to where those things exist. But when NXT came out, one of the things they realized is that with the increased draw distance, you could now see some of these places without using that. I think one of the big examples was you could stand in near Port Sarim on that the little peninsula, and you could see Karanja, which kind of defeats the immersion of having this massive, but the land's just like 10 meters away.
Yeah, you could swim it basically.
Yeah. So they added these kind of, I'm not sure how it works, but these kind of invisible walls where it was like an illusion that it actually kind of cuts off what's behind it. And they also did that for things like where the Dragonkin Castle are. So if I want a free cam of that, I have to go into the Java client where that wall doesn't exist.
Right.
It's a terribly made client. It runs absolutely awfully. It crashes every time I tab out of it. But I'm still sad to see it go because I kind of have a use for it.
You're going to have to get recording in the next couple of weeks, get all your locations.
I'm trying to work out all of these different locations so I can try and pre-record as many of them as I can. And I did actually talk to Mod Perky about if they have a list from back when they released the NXT client, if they had they made a list of all the places, and they don't. So yeah, it's a case of I now need to go and find them all.
Literally a world hunt.
Now, obviously, it's something I can live without. Like, if the Java client was closed a year ago, I never would have had this.
Yeah.
And I would have been fine without it. But it's now something that now that I'm losing it,
It's a shame.
It's a shame. But I do understand why the Java client's going, and I do think it's good for the overall life of the game for Java to go. So yeah.
So, do you record your games, like the actual gameplay? Is it via like OBS or?
Yeah, I record video and audio using Audacity.
Okay, yeah, and then you stick it together in
a little program called VSDC. I have no idea what it stands for. I'm pretty sure it's going to probably be video something. But it's free, which is the big one. It's free. And they've actually done an update to it a while ago. It used to be not very advanced. It was quite basic, but they have done some updates to it that's made it really quite good. It can do a lot of things that it didn't used to be able to do. Works a lot smoother. And for what I do, it works.
Yeah.
Obviously, things like Premiere,
very,
Sony Vegas, they probably will do a better job of what I'm doing, but at the moment I don't really have a need for it, so I've never really felt the need to do it.
Yeah, because they can be obviously very powerful, but then if you don't need that power, then what's the point in paying for it?
It's going to be a lot more complicated to learn for not really much benefit in my case, especially if I ever decide to do anything that needs that sort of stuff. Obviously, I can. There's always the option, as you said. There's the price. You can get it in other ways, but I've never really. Do I want to go for the legal or the lazy route? See, I either say I don't want to illegally download something, or I'm too lazy to find out how that works.
Okay,
and I'll let you decide which one it is. I'll let you decide which one it is. But yeah, I use VSDC, and it's quite a useful little software as well, because it also comes with a file converter and a screen recorder. I don't use the screen recorder because I prefer OBS, but obviously things like a file converter that are free is quite helpful, especially when because it's not a browser-based converter. I trust it a bit more.
Yeah,
obviously some converters I click on, I think I'm definitely going to get a virus off this.
Yes, I'm not just downloading this MP4. This is something else.
I trust it a bit more. It's a nice little bit of software.
All right, I'll stick a link in the description so people can check it out as well. Got the Galaxyshark seal of approval.
I wonder if there's like a referral link thing. I might have a look at that.
And how long would you say you spend like a video, just roughly?
For me, the longest part of producing a video is writing it. I spend probably about 60% of, I reckon about 60% of the time is just the research and the writing. In general, I'd say I can do it in about a day. I probably spend 6 or 7 hours, depending on how focused I am on writing. Obviously, if I'm doing it kind of like chilled, watching something in the background, it'll take a bit longer. But if I really put my mind to it, 6 hours I can probably do one in.
Okay. Yeah, still quite a lot of time really to dedicate to it.
Yeah, I think one of the problems I used to have was I was very constrained to real world events, in that I was living at home with my parents, and the room that I have my computer in is also my dad's office. So I couldn't record anything when he was working, and I couldn't record anything when my parents were like watching TV or anything, because it's in the next room.
Yep.
So I could only record videos while they were walking the dog, which gave me half an hour every morning and every evening to record my videos. That was probably the most challenging part of doing it, which is, I think, one of the reasons it was so not stressful, but kind of like it took a toll, because I knew that like if I came home from work on a Sunday at 4 o'clock. I know that by 7 o'clock they're going to be out walking the dog. I have 3 hours from getting home from work to write a video.
Yeah.
And it definitely had a negative impact on me in those few hours. But I think overall it was pretty worth it. But
I mean, I guess it taught you to work to a deadline in some ways, I suppose.
yeah, I think it more so taught me to not leave everything until the because saying that I had 3 hours to write a video on Sunday when I've known for the past 6 months that I upload every Sunday was pretty a bad idea, considering I could have just done it for the last week. But it's I've always seen myself as a player before a content creator, in that if I'm doing something and I don't want to make a video in that, I won't. Like, I'm not going to decrease the enjoyment I get out of RuneScape, out of things like that, just to make a video. But then on Sundays, I kind of thought, like, I've said I'm going to do it weekly, I may as well just for these couple of hours do it. Yeah, to the original question, about 6 hours or so.
Well, and have you obviously teased top 10s theories, that sort of thing?
Yes.
Have you thought of doing any other type of content creation?
I have. I'm going to say I don't know what I would have done by the time this video goes up, but I plan on staying to lore, staying to the story sort of stuff, because it would be wrong for me to talk about anything else. If I was talking about PVM, I'd be completely clueless, and if I was talking about skilling, I'd be bored out of my mind. But I'm going to look more into theory crafting, a lot more into top 10s, that sort of stuff. I'm basically going to do a lot more of what I did on my old Ninja ONC channel, because I used to absolutely love doing that sort of stuff. And over the past year, I've had a lot more ideas for what I can do with that sort of content. So I thought, I think it's time. It's been a year now. It's time to do something new.
Yeah, is there anything that, like, if you weren't doing videos, what kind of content would you want to do?
I
there
really enjoy
like some artistic medium that you want to learn, or
I really enjoy streaming. If I wasn't making YouTube, I do really enjoy streaming. The problem I have is that I don't, as I said, content creation isn't my priority. So I find it hard to stick to a schedule. One of the biggest things for growing a streaming is being consistent. These people stream like every day for hours and hours. I can't do that. I just don't enjoy it. And also the content, the things I do in RuneScape don't really accommodate streaming. I stand at the farm for half an hour a day. I do a Reaper task. I do a God Wars 2 Reaper task, maybe a Raxor if I'm feeling particularly adventurous. And then I AFK Vias all day while I read the wiki about lore. Be streamable. In terms of artistic things, I would really like to be able to draw, or like do some form of that sort of stuff. And I know it's like you'd always hear like, oh, it's just practice, but I'm just too lazy for it. Like I don't want to be able to do it enough to put the effort in to do it. I just think it would be cool if I could. Although I do always really like the idea of animation. Whether it's like, like the YouTube animators, like the odd ones, that sort of stuff. I like that sort of stuff. But also almost like the Will Miss It style of animation, where it's still using RuneScape assets but patching stuff together. I think some of the stuff he's done, like I don't know if you saw it, the Types of Clan video. It was a relatively recent one. It was a relatively recent one about the big game hunter that I absolutely loved. And like seeing how like he patches all of the different bits of like because you look at it and you think, oh, it was all filmed in one place. but it's not. There are so many different assets that have been pulled from different places, and I think that's just incredible. And I always wanted to be able to do something like that. It's just never really been my skill set, and I just kind of accepted that. And that's probably quite I don't know if pessimistic's the word, but a pessimistic way to look at it. In that I can't do it now, probably can't do it later, so I just won't. I'll stick to what I'm good at. But yeah, it would be cool.
Have you got any tips for anyone that's looking to start making videos?
I would say finding balances in various different things is very, very good. Finding a balance between your content creation life and your real life, your social life. I think I might have been on, in terms of if I had have wanted to really grow, I was a bit too far on almost the wrong side. You don't want to dedicate your whole life to content creation and ruin your social life. But in the same way, if you really want to grow, you kind of have to take that sacrifice a bit.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, don't do YouTube with the expectation of growing. That's a surefire way to be let down because there's a very real chance that it doesn't happen. But you do have to kind of sacrifice a bit of your social life, a bit of your free time to do it. But the other balance in the sense that you have to make content that you like, but also what I do at least is I try and find relevant content to the current climate that I still like.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the best things you can do as a new content creator, whether you're doing RuneScape videos, whether anything, make something relevant to the real world that people actually will want to click on, that will be trending, but also that you enjoy. Because if you don't enjoy it, then if you don't enjoy it and it's successful, you'll feel like you have to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And now it's become one of the least enjoyable. And then on the other perspective, if you really enjoy it but don't make content people want to watch, it becomes really demotivating. And I've seen that side of it, particularly on my older channel. But yeah, I'd say just find a balance. It's a lot of experimenting. Don't expect it to go well to start with. Just find what makes you happy, find what you enjoy doing. Find, even down to finding like an editing software that you like, a method of doing something that you like. Just make sure you enjoy it. If you enjoy it, it will come through. The viewers will know. You'll make better content because you'll be more passionate about it. They'll hear it in your voice. It'll just come out a lot better. You'll be a lot more proud of your content as well. So just experiment, find what you enjoy,
go from there. All right.
And also stay. Don't use Reddit. That's a big one. Don't self-promote on Reddit. Don't go onto the YouTube subreddits, because there are I've seen some of them, and there's a small YouTube subreddit that is basically designed for it's basically sub for sub, but they just don't call themselves that. It's sub for sub, but you have to say something vaguely constructive to each other to benefit your content. I think it might work. You might get followers from it, subs. You might get views from it. You might get very vague, what's the word? Vague advice on how to improve it. But that advice will be coming from someone who doesn't know your area.
Yeah.
All they know is how to make a YouTube video, and that's kind of the same. You can watch any successful YouTube video, and that's what they're going to tell you to do. But yeah, just do it yourself. I'd say 100%. Don't. And also, it's just like you get a lot more satisfaction from knowing a video that you made was successful because of how you made it, not because of where you put it.
Yes.
Obviously, Twitter, that's fine. Advertise on Twitter. Again, I think it's about finding a balance. In that, I stopped sharing my videos on Twitter at one point because I wasn't using Twitter as much, and I didn't want my Twitter to become a Discord bot for "Hey everyone, I've uploaded." "Hey everyone, I've uploaded." Obviously, again, it's I keep going on about the same thing. It's just finding a balance, but this is from my experience what I enjoyed doing. Just see what works. If something doesn't work, try something else. If something works, stick with it.
And just make sure you enjoy it most of all.
Yeah. Make content you would watch, rather than thinking so much about the algorithms and stuff like that.
Yeah, everything behind the scenes.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think that's going to bring us to the end of everything I had lined up. Have you got anything else you want to chat about? That's come up.
I don't think so.
No, I think we've covered quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, have you got any shout-outs? Anything you want to plug?
Oh,
anyone?
God. I mean, it'd be wrong of me to not plug my YouTube channel, RSGalaxyShark. I don't know what the URL is. I think I have a custom URL. No idea. And maybe I'm streaming again. Who knows? That's RSGalaxyShark again on Twitch. Probably not. Watch other people. Give other people your Prime subs. I'm not worth it. I don't know. To be fair, because all of the people that I would shout out, the people who have inspired me and stuff, are already far, far bigger than myself, and probably already know them. People like Will Miss It, people like the RS guy. If you're watching like smaller channels and you don't know about them, you're doing YouTube wrong. You've done something wrong.
You've missed a big boat.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not.
All right. Well, no worries. Thank you very much for your time, and I hope you've enjoyed coming on. It's been great chatting.
Yeah,
to you
it's been a blast.
everything.
Yeah, it's a new experience, but it's nice to do different things.
All right, lovely. I
Nice
hope
experience.
everyone's
Thanks for
enjoyed it, and tune in. Check out the links to VSDC in the description below.